Wow, what an outstanding episode we have here on the Well-Rounded Grappler today. For the second time, I welcome back Skyler Cummings. Skyler has an unbelievable amount of accolades in judo and wrestling. We're talking multiple digit national championships, and now she owns a school in Connecticut, a school that does judo and wrestling. We really dive deep into the business side of running a dojo. So, obviously, the episode can be enjoyed by anybody, but if you are a dojo owner or if you are thinking about opening up a dojo, especially in judo, this is the episode for you. So, I really hope that you enjoy it. Thank you so much. Before we start today's episode, I wanted to let you know about a good friend of mine, Josh Carter, and his business, NBS Mechanical. Today's episode is actually going to be brought to you by NBS Mechanical. I personally trust their expert technicians at my own house. Josh has been out a couple times. He has great prices, and above all, he has some of the best customer service that I have ever seen in any company. Not only is Josh a listener of the show, but he's also one of my friends. So big shout out to Josh. If you need HVAC work, call Josh. Information of how to get in contact with him is below. Now here we go. Without further ado, my second interview with Miss Skyler Cummings. Hey everybody. Welcome back to the Well-Rounded Grappler. So now we have round two. Miss Skyler Cummings. So thank you so much for coming back onto the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
You know, there's a lot going on in the judo community that is good. And I always want to focus on that stuff, because I think that I don't think, I pretty much know that there's a little bit of a new wave and a little bit of a new invigoration for judo. And I may have not noticed it in the past, but since opening the dojo, I've really kind of found that, judo is kind of growing a little bit recently as opposed to maybe 10 years ago. And it's a good feeling. Have you kind of been sensing that and feeling that in the last year or two?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a big jump in a new generation of people that want to see judo grow and want to open clubs and want to kind of try to do it for a living. It's kind of changed. I think there was a generation in like there was a group of, specifically if we want to talk about like something like this, where there was even a group of athletes that from I'd say like 2000 to 2012 or so, that we lost a lot of our athletes, and that decided not to continue on with the sport after they retired from sport.
Right.
So I think that was a big issue where we had, I think judo was huge. Obviously, it was before I was born, but um, it was huge at one point, and that's kind of the point where it kind of died. And I think there's a group of people now that kind of want to see it grow again, and are doing the extra to kind of bring it back and do the extra and get the students and try to make it more of a lifestyle.
Right. And, you know, rent is not getting any cheaper. Tatamis are not getting any cheaper. Judo gis are not getting any cheaper. So,
Hmm.
the whole aspect of being able to open up a nonprofit and run it as specifically a judo club is becoming very difficult because you don't see judo in the community centers as much as you used to. I mean, they're still there, and it's awesome. And the ones, the YMCA's or the local community centers that still have it, that's awesome.
Hmm.
But whenever you're an individual and you want to start a judo club and use the philosophy that judo has been using for the last last 130 years or whatever, that judo should be a free education for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's becoming very difficult,
For
and
sure.
not just because of the cost of rent and to get a program started and whatnot, but also in the fact that sorry, I lost my train of thought. But just in the fact of getting people to join judo specifically and promote it as a judo club specifically and get people to come in just because it's judo, that's another thing that's just hard on its own. So
Definitely.
everything combined, it is definitely becoming more and more difficult to do the nonprofit model.
Definitely. 100%. It's not that it's like you said, I'm a true believer in that we kind of need all of those programs, because there's got to be a starting point for people. Some people reach the sport in different ways. Like obviously,
Yeah,
if people don't know what judo is, their first step sometimes isn't always to go and pay a semi larger monthly rate than a rec sport, right?
yeah,
So their first step might be the rec center type program, and if their parents or them or whatever kind of seem uh, eager to take it to the next level, then they sought out a more year-round, consistent monthly program, and then they jump to that point. So it's a really good thing to have those programs to have introduction as well. But at the end of the day, the thing that's going to continuously grow the sport at this point in time is going to be the for-profit model, because it
yeah.
keeps the instructor more focused on building people and building the people that come in, rather than them having 80 million things on their plate and this is just a side thing and it's just for
Yeah,
fun. And it's really difficult, especially in today's world where with electronics and everything, people get so distracted and kids get so distracted, and parents don't necessarily instill the same discipline that they used to with their kids. It's very easy for people to quit and move on or take a break and come back and do so. Being able to have that focus on individuals is really important to keep them consistent in the sport and have that personal relationship.
no, I 100% agree on every one
Hmm.
of those aspects. I know that, as far as right now, I'm not sure if this is the model that you went with in the beginning or not, but your school is Top Game Martial Arts, and
Hmm.
I use the same sort of approach. And I've heard this from a couple people. I recently interviewed Paul Jordan. Do you know who Paul
Yep.
Jordan is? Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I interviewed him, and again, he is one of the individuals that for I think like 20 years or 30 years he's ran a judo club, and that's been his full time job.
Yep.
But he pointed out that whenever he started the club, he had, this is I don't remember what the name of the club is, but this is Paul Jordan's Judo Club. We do judo. Here's my website with Kayla Harrison and Travis
Yep.
Stevens and Mike Swain and all these big names, and it's cool. It's a judo club, and this is what we do. And if I'm a person that's interested in judo and I look at the website, I'm like, whoa, he's with Kayla Harrison, and look at those cool throws that I want to do. But he found that it was hard to get people in the door because if you just kind of promote it as judo itself, then you don't get the same draw because he changed his model, and it went from we do judo to we change lives, we solve problems, we instill confidence, we're family friendly, we do this, we do that, and then his membership like quadrupled. So, in the beginning, did you do top game martial arts or was it judo? And do you agree with kind of what I'm saying and what Paul did in that aspect?
I agree 100%. So basically, when I started my club and I had first put out that I was going to open a club, um, a long friend of mine, Chuck Wall,
Yep.
with Judo Gear USA, and he owns Wall to Wall in Virginia, and he's good friends with Paul, and so they use a lot of the same um, ideals and the same websites and the same programs to run their club and everything. So when I had posted that originally back in 2020, Chuck reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I want to help you any way I can," and he set me up with all the websites and the mindset of how to actually go about broadcasting a club to the community, and the things that he brought, like you said, he brought up right away, where do not put judo or judo and wrestling, or don't put that in the name, just put martial arts, because
Hmm.
number one, when people are searching it up on Google, it comes up very generalistic.
Yeah.
So even there's people that come into my club and first day, even though it says it does say judo all over the website and stuff like that, and um they come in first day and they're like, they're excited to do karate.
Yeah.
It's like,
Sure. Of
oh, it's
course.
judo, not karate. But and there's
Right.
honestly parents that have had kids in the program for years that still just say karate, and and
What the heck?
and it's not because they don't know. It's just
Oh
because
yeah.
they
Yeah.
see
Hmm.
uh judo and karate and wrestling, they see just see everything as one thing because it's martial arts.
Yeah.
And it's just because they didn't do it. They don't understand that to us judo people that's a complete insult sometimes. And and
Right.
but that's it's really important to have that martial arts statement rather than judo or whatever the art is, because it's like I said, even the Google searches, it just comes up with all these other things.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's a pretty interesting thing too, and Paul really went out of his way to help me, and I had the same discussion with him. Is whenever I go online and I try to research things regarding judo, especially the business side, there is barely anything out there. And
For
I came across his interview on Judo Dad Bod, and he was talking about the growing the business and running it like that. Hold on one second.
Yeah, no, it's if you go and Google anything, there's no information. There really isn't any information on how to go. And obviously, it the model that I know Paul and Chuck and these people kind of follow. It's based off the taekwondo
Mm-hmm.
model, and there's a lot of information out there for stuff like that, and we can kind of take that and manipulate it into judo for us.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of smart little tips and tricks and aspects and ways to get people involved and ways to broadcast and advertise that we can use too. But it's not much for judo. It's just the taekwondo. There's a lot on that.
Right. Yeah. I know that I haven't gotten too much backlash for doing a for profit and business model. But I still am getting a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
are you you know whenever you got started and you were telling I mean, obviously your dad's in support of you, but like other black belts in the community, or when you start to get the word out that hey, I'm going to open a judo club and I'm looking to run as a full time business, did you experience any backlash, or was it all praise?
So it's funny because it's kind like you said, it's kind of a mix because and it's not. I think everybody in one way, shape, or form knows it's what is going to work. Um, but for example, when a couple years into first opening my club, Connecticut Judo started kind of coming together a little bit more again and stuff like that as like a governing organization basically.
Yeah.
And there's there were no other not or there were no other for profit clubs in Connecticut. And so basically, and this was at the time, obviously, let's say I had 100 students.
Mm.
There was a total of like 190 judo players in Connecticut total.
And
And
you had 100
so,
of them?
yes.
Holy crap.
And we had 12 clubs or something like that.
Oh, man.
And and obviously some of them were
Wow.
BJJ with a judo program, or some of them,
Sure,
like
of
there were things
course.
like that, um but the second that I started discussing what like my rates were and stuff like that, it was like, really? And it was almost like just
Hmm.
completely questioning how it's even possible,
Right.
where I'm sure a lot of these clubs are struggling to, and I'm not in a part of Connecticut that's very populated. I'm in the least populated part of Connecticut. Most of the
Yeah.
other clubs are in cities, and
Right.
they're in very populated areas and are struggling to get students and figure out
Yeah.
how to do this.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and I'm
Hmm.
in, well, it's literally called the quiet corner of Connecticut.
Really?
It's like this is the only area of Connecticut where you walk outside and people are strapped up and everybody's driving trucks, and like it's like a redneck type area.
It's my kind of
Um,
area.
yeah, yeah. So they couldn't grasp that I was able to charge what I was charging in an area like mine, and they're in a
Mhm.
city and they
Yeah.
can't get people to come in and stay and pay their fee. That's half the price of mine.
Yeah, that's referred to as freedom, Skyler.
Yes, yes. Exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that in an and another thing too, um, and you could go into a whole bunch of different aspects and perspectives about this. So, in today's world and today's market, and I mean, I do this, I'm sure you do this. If we're well, let's just say we want to go out to eat, right? I open my phone. I look for, I'm looking for a place I've never been before. What's Indian restaurants in the area, and stuff pulls up on my phone, and some pull up and they got a lot of reviews and there's good pictures, and you open the website and it's a good website and it's like, okay, I probably want to go there, like this looks like a cool place. Or I click on this one and it's like no website at all,
Yeah,
one review, like not no pictures loaded, and it's like I don't go there,
right,
um, or I drive by a place and sometimes I'm like, you know, I I want to go there, but I want to see like what the reviews are or whatever. So I
for
pull up
sure.
my phone. So in other words, right? Like we're a data driven sort of thing. I mean, also,
Yeah,
you can go off word of mouth, obviously, right?
of
Like your
course. Yeah,
friend
yeah,
says, go to this Indian restaurant. It's awesome. It's a hole in the wall, but you're gonna love it. Okay, but if it's just I'm looking it up on my own, I'm going to look for those reviews and those nice pictures and a good website and stuff like that. Why am I saying this? When people are looking for any sort of activity with their kids, they're looking for the same sort of thing. They want to pull it up on their phone and see, okay, we have a martial arts club that's close to us. Okay, cool.
yep,
I didn't know it was there. All right, did they got a website? Okay, open it up. Okay, website looks decent. Okay,
yep,
there's some pictures of kids. I wonder if there's any reviews. Okay, there's 30 reviews. Okay, I think I might want to bring my kid there. Or
definitely.
or they drive by a martial art place and it's in a shopping center and it's just like whatever. It's whatever, like Ken's Karate. I don't know why I said Ken, Master Ken, whatever. But if you know what that is, it's a
Yeah,
fake
yeah, yeah.
fake guy. But it's like Master Ken's. Okay, all right. I wonder if I want to take my kid there again. Pull up my phone. No website. Okay, no reviews. Okay, nobody knows about it. I probably am not going to take my kid there. So I
Right,
think so. Like, why I bring this up is because if you're doing a nonprofit model, there's usually not a marketing budget to where
for
they can
sure.
spend money on a nice website. They could spend money on a professional photographer to come in. They could spend money on social media. They could spend money on this, spend money on that. And like, that's the day and age that we live in. I mean, word of mouth is always super popular, but you have to be able to. get a clean, professional, look out there, because that's what most people do. I know that was a long rant, but does that kind of make sense? And do you agree with what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, for sure, because that's a big thing, because even and that's kind of why now it's you can see that kind of little bit of a movement of people trying to do these for-profit clubs, because I think this new generation of people understands that a lot more. I
Right.
think there's a huge gap where there's a generation of people that didn't grow up on the internet. Not that they don't know how to use it, but like it's just they don't understand all the aspects of the things you can actually accomplish with it.
Right.
So a lot of older people specifically will see just a restaurant driving by and be like, "Oh, let's stop there." And
Mm-hmm.
they don't think about like what we do, where we go and look at the reviews. This person gave a bad review. We don't want to go there because it says this.
Right.
And so
Right.
I think that aspect is a very new thing. And obviously, the more praise that you have online, just like having followers on social media, the more you have, the more people are going to follow, the more people are going to try to see what you're doing, what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have a lot of pictures, kids smiling,
Yeah.
adults of all different looks and
Mm-hmm.
sizes and ages and whatever, if you have everything, because that happens a lot, where there's a lot of judo clubs that don't have kids programs. I don't know why, but there's so many clubs that don't
Yeah.
have kids programs. And
Right.
that's realistically, like, the way that I think about it is, you have a 6-year-old kid. You have at least 12 years of judo you can get out of them before they maybe go to college or whatever else. So
Yeah.
you have
Right.
12 years to
Oh
get
yeah.
them to a point where they are a black belt. They have the highest chance of doing their own thing in judo, getting a club, either in even staying with you or whatever
Yeah.
the deal is. That's the highest probability of that happening. When you have a 20-year-old that starts, they are at a certain point in their life,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 3 years down the road, they have a kid and they get married and they take breaks, and so you could
Yeah.
only get a couple years out of them,
Yeah.
and they're not going to go on and give because they haven't taken enough in.
Mm-hmm.
And so really, the kids are where it's at to not only
Yeah.
make money and have a profitable business, but at the same time, that's what's going to grow judo the most, is having kids programs and building that up.
And I am one of your, newer followers on your new TikTok page, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I saw it and I'm like, oh, cool. Skyler's got a page, so I got to follow that one.
Yep.
Yeah, so definitely,
Yep.
yeah,
Just started.
yeah, that's cool. There's a long backstory behind it. Well, it's not even really a story. I don't know what happened, but a year ago, year and a half ago, my Facebook page and my Instagram page like got shut down, and it's like, why did this happen? And for a while, I
Jeez.
was like, what in the world's going on? Because I've had Facebook since 2000, like 5 or 6, right?
Yeah.
And back when it was just for colleges, just to show my
Yeah.
age. For those of you that don't know, that's what Facebook was originally, was for college students. But anyway, so who knows what I put on there in well, I'll just say it, a drunken rant, like years and
Yeah.
years
Yep.
ago. So there's no telling.
Yep.
But anyways, but I've been doing Facebook again, YouTube, TikTok, and to be honest, it hasn't. I would say that it hasn't really brought me business per se.
Yep.
Like I think maybe one person had come in when they saw me, but for the most part, no. Uh, but I am getting a little bit of interaction with some people, and I'm doing a lot of studying, because I mean it's kind of like with social media, it's about like manipulating the system in a way. It's not
Right.
like if you put a video out and like that's it, and it could be literally the world's greatest video, but if it's not popping up on people's feeds and people aren't searching for you and it's not triggering algorithm type stuff, people are just not going to see it, you know. And I mean,
Right.
trust me, I'm still super low and I'm still learning, but I'm getting a little bit more interaction and I'm getting people that are sending me questions and stuff, which is cool, and some
Right.
requests for some technique. So I mean, it's slowly moving in the right direction, but I'm more looking for quality people to watch. Like, I don't care if 1,000 people watch for 1 minute, but I like the 10 people that watch the whole video and then ask a question
Right.
about it. You know, that's kind of why I'm doing that. But yeah, so whenever, you know, let's refresh everyone on the beginnings a little bit again. And you know, this is my second interview with Skyler, by the way. So if you want to check out Skyler's other video, you can check it out. It's I don't know, maybe around, I probably should have researched this, but around maybe interview 40, 45, something around that range. But you can check that out too if you want to hear a little bit more details. But so, you know, you started in COVID, and which is a crazy time to start. And you
Yep.
know, luckily it panned out and it worked out. And when I messaged you the other day, you said that you started teaching 5 days a week right off the bat. So, what were some of your early decisions in doing that specifically to just offer, you know, several things all at once and to rent out a space and a couple other things in the beginning?
So when I started, um, I knew I wanted to use the business model of things.
Mm,
I kind of, when I first was thinking about it, I didn't even think about that portion of it, to be completely honest.
sure.
But obviously, after a month or two of trying to make decisions, it's like, all right, how am I going to do this? And
Real quick.
yeah,
So, did you advertise well in advance before you opened the doors?
yes,
Yeah, that's
yes,
it's a good thing,
um,
right? Because you would have ended
yes,
up,
for
you know, me and you would have ended up sitting empty for a while, I'm sure. But yeah.
right.
Anyway, go on.
I I I think it was in June I started in June of 2020. I opened in November 2020. June 2020 is when I started making the social media pages. I had gotten my logo made at that point as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's a big piece. Funny enough, like,
Mm-hmm.
so I ended up, when I got my logo made, I reached out to a guy that used to wrestle for Johnson and Wales, and he was an NCAA D3 All American and stuff like that. And I had seen that he had graduated college and had a graphic design business that he had opened, and I had reached out to him and was like, "Hey, I wanted to see if you'd make me a logo. This is my idea. This is what," and and I had been very specific that I wanted it to have like nothing to do with judo. Do you
Mm-hmm.
see a lot of logos, and it's judo throws in the logo, and people
Right.
don't understand it if they've never been around judo. So I was like, I
Right.
don't want it to have anything with judo. I want to be able to it be like a stamp where you can put it on anything,
Yeah.
and it just looks like something. It's not, you could use it for anything, but it's obviously got the name and whatever. And he came back with something. He was like, this is he was supposed to make three of them, and he ended up coming back with one and was like, this is the one, I'm super proud of it, like I think you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
And it was just like a little TG like emblem,
Mm-hmm.
and it was perfect because it
Nice.
literally goes on everything, and it's super broad. It's
Yeah.
not like,
Sure. Uh-huh.
it's a very nifty design.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
so that was my first thing that I ever posted, obviously, was that logo.
Mm-hmm.
And right away, I still get compliments on it all the time where it's like, ah, you have one of the best logos there is.
Awesome.
And but that was my first thing. 5 months out or whatever, I started posting was the logo,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
just basic things like looking for an October opening, and just like giving
Yeah.
updates kind of towards
Mm-hmm.
the beginning.
Newsletter.
Um, yeah, yep, yep,
Yep.
yep. Just kind of like where we were at, what was going on. Um, but towards the beginning, it was, first of all, funny enough, I found a great place very easily
Mm-hmm.
because it was COVID, and actually, there was the place I got had been vacant for a while. Um, it used to be like a flea market or something, and so it had been, and because there was like a new owner of the building for a while and whatever else, and there's like a Napa in the facility and stuff like that, so they couldn't rent out those two of the buildings for a while, two of the spaces for a while. And I had reached out in May or June of 2020 about one of the spaces, and the guy ended up, I got a showing and whatever else. And funny enough, not the landlord, but the guy showing me the building knew someone that did judo, and then this other lady showed up to help show the building, and her brother did judo and was like a good judo player back in the day. So
Nice.
it kind of twined in. It was pretty neat.
Yeah.
But I saw this building and it was like, oh, this is probably perfect. The cost was great for what it was at the time, and so it was like, all right, I want this place. But
Nice.
obviously with COVID kind of in the midst and not knowing what was going on, and this was June 2020, so we showed up with masks on for this showing and all this stuff. Um, I was like, all right, so am I able to sign a lease for the end of the year and and do that instead? And they were like, oh, we can't promise that.
Oh.
So I was like, oh. So then I kind of just was like, all right, well, I'm not going to sign anything then. So after a couple of months, I started discussing with the landlord himself and being like, hey, I want to do this. Is there any way we could push this off? And he was like, yeah, no problem. Like, I'm not getting any bites. We're in a weird time. Like,
Yeah.
if you can by the end of the year get this settled up, I'll promise it to you.
Wow.
So I ended up in October signing the lease. He let me get in a couple weeks early to start working on the place so that I could have it open once my lease officially started. Um, and it was a very easy process as far as going from, because I had done all the back work. It was very easy to start the club, have two people on the first day. The reason I wanted to
Nice.
start with a full program was because I wanted to be able to offer right from the start what they were going to get continued on.
Yeah.
So I kind of, even if there were practices where nobody showed up and I just sat there and closed up early for the night,
Yeah.
I was okay with that because I knew that someone being able to walk in and know that, oh, I'm getting all this for this cost if I want it.
Yeah.
And even
Sure.
if nobody else shows up for the practice, you're working with the person one on one. And
Sure.
so towards the beginning, it was like the first couple weeks the adult classes were a little iffy because and actually when I started, the only difference when I started versus what I'm doing now, obviously I've added like a competition class and there's like little stuff, but it's not for the general program.
Yeah.
But the biggest difference was that I didn't originally have an adult program on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So it was pretty much exactly the same, but I didn't have that program. The reason why I added the program on those 2 days was because I actually had a kid that came in that wanted to compete, and I was like, all right, well, we'll throw extra practices in all those days. So it was actually because of him that I added those extra programs or extra classes in the program.
Yeah.
So then it ended up turning into a 5 day a week adult program very quickly. So it gives people lots of options to attend.
Sure. Yeah. And I thought that it was going to go that way with my club, as far as I thought that the kids program would get traction right away and the
Yeah.
adults would slowly trickle in, and the exact opposite happened for me, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And my adult program is still larger than my kids program,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, but it's growing though. It's
Good.
growing. Both of them are growing. um, I ended up splitting my kids class, which it was just anybody under 12, right, was what I did
Yep.
originally. And then I started to get a little bit of a range of ages and skills and sizes, and I'm like, well,
Of course.
I'm going to eventually have to split this up into what I call the future grapplers, which is 4 to 7, and then
Yep.
the junior judokas is 8 to 12, right? And
Yep.
that's just a baseline because I have
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I have an 11-year-old that's in my adult class,
Yep.
because it's better for him. But anyway, so I'm like, well, I'll just wait till I grow, and a couple people, including actually, I'm not sure if Paul told me that or not, but somebody else also is like, well, why are you going to wait? And I'm like, well, I don't have the numbers yet. And his response was, well, when you have the numbers and now you're going to try to switch everybody's schedule on them, don't you think that that's not as good of an idea? And I'm like, you're right. You're right.
Yep.
So I split the schedule, and I moved the older kids class up 30 minutes, and I moved the adult class up 30 minutes, and I didn't lose any members. So,
Good.
but it wasn't a big change, but it was
Right.
30
Right. Right. Right.
minutes. But I'm already getting questions on when am I adding a third day, because I'm only doing 2 days a week, because
Yep.
I teach at a jiu-jitsu school as well, 2 days a week, just two classes a week, an hour each, and then I work full time, right? And then I'm a
Yep.
dad, so it's like, like I get
It's a lot.
it, and I do want to add another class or two, but I'm maybe just a little bit out yet still. But yeah, and I contemplated, because I had a parent bring a 3-year-old the other day, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, we just want to, would you be okay with him just trying it to see if this is the right fit for him? I'm like, yeah, of course. I only got 2 kids in the future grapplers class anyways, and they're 5, so it's
Yeah.
all good. Um, but he's a little young. But I thought about maybe when I add an extra day, do a 2 to 4-year-old class,
Hundred
because
percent.
my daughter's 3, and well, not 3 yet, but she will be. But we wouldn't be doing much. We wouldn't be doing judo per se. We would,
Right.
but we what they
Tumbling. And,
tumbling, break falls,
yep.
stuff like that, playing games, just more
Yep.
to just get them used to body awareness, spatial manipulation, balance,
Yep.
just stuff like that. So I mean, still call it
Right.
judo, I guess. But yeah. So you're happy with doing a lot of days at first, even though some were empty and nobody showed up. You're happy you
Right.
did that.
Right. Definitely. Because and that's the thing too is that like you did originally. I had the one kids class, and then I split it into two. Probably after a couple months, 6 months maybe. I don't
Exactly.
remember exactly when I made that break off, but it was pretty quickly for the most part.
Hmm.
Um,
What ages are
but
those?
so I do 8 and under,
Okay.
and I actually I let kids start at 3.
Okay.
Um, there's there's actually I'm surprised there's a lot of 3-year-olds that are really developed
Hmm.
for their age. There's a lot of 3-year-olds that aren't. So sometimes it's a hit or miss where a 3-year-old comes in and it's like, you're 3. This kid looks like he's 5, and and
Yeah.
and usually that ends up being the case, luckily. But
Uh-huh.
then I have kids that come in that can barely talk and stuff like that. So that can be
Okay.
tough, but
Yeah.
they what happens so one other thing that I do that I didn't do originally, obviously, because I couldn't, but um especially within the last year kind of has started to occur, is that I have a group of kids that have done judo for 4 or 5 years now. So a lot of those kids, their parents bring them early,
Yeah.
and they help with the little kids program.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And
Of course. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I
Of
have
course.
I have probably I have a couple kids that are there every day, but there's probably 4 or 5 kids that are very consistent. They come at least once a week to help. And it helps a lot
Oh, of
because
course it does. Oh, yeah, for
number
sure.
one, it's good for, like, I attribute it for their promotions
Of
and
course. Yeah. Uh-huh.
giving back and stuff like that. But they learn how to teach, and they learn how to deal with, because you'd think that kids being around kids, it's like they know how they work, but I think kids are more like kids like that are like 12 are way more impatient with 3, 4, 5 year olds than adults are, and they really get that tolerance and how to work around kids that age, and learn their habits and how to kind of tolerate and distract and deter them from negative behavior or whatever it is. So it really helps, and I end up doing you because obviously, like you said, like a lot of the kids, it's a lot of tumbling and break falls and stuff like that, but it makes it good because what I end up doing is I take those 5 kids that are in there for the class, that are helping, and I put them kind of I teach a move and I put them on the mat, and I have like a line of, let's say, 5 kids in each of their line or whatever it is, and they're throwing that person. They're
Yeah.
throwing the 10-year-old. They're throwing the 12-year-old. So
Yeah.
it
Sure.
makes it so that they can do judo on someone that's not necessarily that much bigger than them, and make it a little bit realistic. But the little kids are never taking a fall like they're not taking falls on the hard mat or anything like that. So they get some good judo in. They get some help from people their age, and obviously we have 3 other like adult instructors in the class. So they're going around and helping. You have the little kids
Yeah.
doing it on like the bigger kids, and the bigger kids are able to help adjust too at the same time. So it's kind of a good process that has developed over time with
Yeah.
the growth and development of the kids themselves too.
So the classes, one of your classes is 3 to 8. That's one class.
Yes.
Okay. And then
Yes.
do you have? And then you have an older kids class as well.
Yep. So, and it's the same as yours, where it's like a general guideline. Because I
Yeah.
have
Of
kids
course.
that
Yep.
there's always the gigantic 6-year-old that looks like he's 12.
Yeah.
So that kid, like
Right.
they
Yeah.
might do the younger class, but then end up getting pushed up into the older class. Or some kids that are more advanced for their age, that are 7 or 8 years old, I have them do both classes so they can still have fun and have
Yeah.
more age appropriate stuff, but then get a challenge.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing. And then I have kids that are I have a couple girls, because obviously a lot of the girls are a little bit bigger when they're younger.
Yeah.
So like kids that started, that girls that were 10, 11, 12 that did the adult class at 10 years old, but do their class too. So they kind of do both, and gives them more mat time, and they kind of get the more age appropriate fun games, whatever, and then the little bit more intense of the adults.
You know what you said made me laugh because I was a PE teacher for 8 years, and there would be times to where I would let the kids lead some activities.
Yep.
Whether it's I did like PE teacher for a day. I've done group activities to where the groups come up with games. Like that was their goal,
Yep.
is to make a game, and then they would teach, right? And it's just funny
Yep.
because and these are like middle school age or whatever,
Yeah.
and they're coming up to me. They're like, "Mr. Stanley, no one is listening to me." And I'm
That is
like,
so
well,
funny.
now you know how I feel, don't you?
It's
It's like,
it's funny because it's the same thing. It's the same thing with these kids. I have this kid that he literally started with me on I think it was 2 months after I opened,
yeah.
and he started on my birthday. So I remember
Uh-huh,
his
uh-huh.
exact starting date. And him and his sister started, and this kid has done judo for literally over 5 years now, and he's a
Yeah.
really small 12-year-old.
Right.
And he's helped with all the kids programs, and
Mhm,
he does like the adult class with like another kid his size, that
mhm,
like, and just kind of they work together and they do some of the stuff we do,
mhm.
and he brings that up all the time, where he's like, oh my gosh, I understand now.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
understand how annoying it is when these kids aren't listening because they don't listen
Yeah.
to me.
Right. Yep. It's called a dose of your own medicine.
Exactly.
So whenever we talked, you said that you were still working another job. Not sure if you said it was full time or not, but you were working another job for the first 2 years of the club
Yep.
being open. So, what was a couple things that you needed to set in place before you left your job? Was it more you were looking for an exact number of consistent membership? Were you looking to save some money in the bank, or what was it exactly that you were waiting for to make that shift and actually quit your other job?
Yeah. So, originally too, and the other outlying factor that might make it a little bit different is COVID. Um, I probably wouldn't have stayed there quite as long. But
Uh-huh.
at least for the first year, not knowing uh if they could just throw a random shutdown in there again and stuff like that. But being able to have
Right.
that extra safety net of like
Yeah.
if I needed to cancel classes for 2 months,
Mm-hmm.
being able to still pay the bills and stuff like that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Obviously by that point things just got easier, and like after November 2020, at least where I am, like things started dropping. There was very little restriction.
Yeah.
Um, and by like summertime, people kind of just, I don't want to say forgot about it, but it was very on the back burner at that point. So
Right.
I didn't necessarily need to work
Uh-huh.
per se after the first year or so.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I liked, first of all, being able to have that extra money
Yeah, of course.
to know that, just in general, without COVID being a factor, to know that I can support it. I only needed, I think it was 20 members to kind of break even for the month with all my bills and stuff like that.
Oh,
So,
that's not bad. 20 is
yeah,
not
no, it wasn't.
is definitely achievable.
For sure. And
Nice.
I got that probably in 6 weeks, I'd say.
Oh,
It was probably
nice.
about 6 weeks that I had that.
Wow.
So it
Nice.
was very attainable to break even.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to also build up enough money where I could expand quickly.
Mm.
So I ended up expanding um, right before I stopped working at that other job.
Okay.
So I ended up,
Expanding in what way?
so the space that I was in
Mm-hmm.
was shoot, how big is that space? 1,250 square feet, I think, was my original starting space. Um, so I started in that space,
Mm-hmm.
and actually it's 1,500. That one was 1,500. So I
Okay.
started with
Mm-hmm.
1,500,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the next door unit when I first got in there was being occupied by the DOT, and it was a temporary lease for them.
Yeah.
So they were done
Mm-hmm.
about,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a year or so into me opening. And so it had become available, but I knew it was going to become available soon,
Yeah.
and I knew that it would be a good option to have that extra 1,250 square feet of space.
Nice.
So I ended up, before it even got put out there, I
Mm-hmm.
messaged my landlord and was like, hey, by the way, when that space becomes open, I'd
Mm-hmm.
like it because I think I'm going to need it, and I'd rather get it now than wait and it be gone and then I'm screwed and I have to leave. And
Well,
he
that's
was like, no problem.
convenient.
You get, yeah.
Yeah.
He was like, you get first dibs on
Same
it, so
landlord
it's
and right
yours.
next door. That's
Yep.
how lucky can you get? That's
Yep.
great. Yeah.
And literally and it was so easy because all I did was put in two viewing windows and a door. I didn't want to take down that whole wall and make it an open thing.
Mm.
So I just matted the whole first unit that I didn't have matted in the first place. Like it was only half
Mm.
matted or so, and then there was seating area and stuff like that. So I ended up matting that whole room and putting in those windows and that door. So now the way it works is people come in from the other unit. There's a sitting area, there's a gym, there's bathroom, an office,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
kids go into the other room for class and the parents sit out and watch.
Right. Right.
So it makes it so much easier to teach because at the beginning it wasn't bad, but it gets to a point where, like, if you have 25 kids on the mat and you
Mm-hmm.
have three instructors, you can't look at every kid constantly. So then it turns into the parent being like, no, you got to do this. And they try to get involved and they don't know what they're doing. And half the time they're telling their kids the wrong thing anyway. And it's just chaotic. So especially with considering the fact of, like, the big idea being broadcasting that discipline and respect and improvement and this and that,
Sure.
and those being the pillars at the forefront, being able to have their full attention without the distraction of their parents is a really big thing, because it's difficult to tell a kid that they shouldn't be listening to their parents. So if they like, because they don't understand, like a kid can't decipher the difference of being like, oh well, you can't listen to your parent because you're going to do that and you're going to hurt a kid, and they can't decipher the difference between that and not listening to them at home or whatever it
Oh
is.
yeah.
So being able to have that separation of like, you guys need to not insert yourself into the class
Yeah.
without having to be too harsh about it. Like that was the best way to do it, where the parents can watch and enjoy and see their kids do well and whatever else, and see how the class goes. But there's that barrier where it's like there's a line drawn. They can't come in and start doing stuff, and so it was a very big upgrade for me to be able to do that, because it completely changed how I was able to run the program. And it kind of got to the point a lot better, as far as we're trying to establish patience and attention spans and whatever else, and we can't establish your child's attention span if you're always jumping and screaming in the background because you want them to do something.
Yeah.
And there's still like little issues where it's like, because we have the viewing windows, then it ends up being where like they're waving to them out there and stuff like that. But it's a way easier situation to deal with.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I would run into issues every once in a while when I coach wrestling that and it would be our choice, and instead of the kid looking at me for top, bottom, and neutral, looked at their parent.
Oh yeah,
Man, that's that sort of thing just really
for
sets
sure.
sets me
Oh,
off.
it
So
happens a lot.
yeah,
In like, there's been times in judo, and it happens more with like the older kids group,
yeah.
because they can kind of do the techniques more realistically, like they're supposed to be done. But there's
Hmm.
kids that are like 10, 11, 12, and they'll come in for practice. We worked on something, say the practice before or whatever, and they're doing a technique, and we get to randori, and it's like, well, why aren't you doing the technique that I just told you to, or we just went over? Why aren't you trying it? Oh, well, my mom said they want me to try this. And it's like, your mom does not know what they're talking about. Like, no, you're not doing that. and and it's crazy, because a lot of times it's always the people that have never done anything like judo or wrestling or jujitsu. It's
Yeah.
always they don't understand how hard it actually is,
Hmm.
especially for a kid,
Right.
to not know how to do anything and then learn something and actually
Hmm.
instill it.
Right. Right.
And they don't understand how hard it is to throw a ponsenagi.
Hmm.
So it's like, oh, I want them to throw this throw.
Hmm.
Or the big one that I think we've had lately at the club specifically is,
Hmm.
at tournaments I've had quite a few of my advanced students hit like foot sweeps. Hit
Hmm.
really nice foot sweeps. And the
Hmm.
kids see it, right? And the
Hmm.
parents see it, and they're like, "Oh, it's so basic. It's so simple. It's so easy." It's so And I was like, that's probably the most difficult thing to do in judo.
Yeah.
It looks easy because
Hmm.
it is easy physically.
Hmm.
It's not easy
Hmm.
mentally, being able to catch the timing and develop the
Hmm.
discipline to know when to hit it.
Right.
And so when I've heard like simple, easy, and it's like, oh, it's not simple and easy though. It's not like that. The kids are not going to be able to hit stuff like that.
And it's becoming, you know, very popular in the last couple years in the jiu-jitsu scene too, that the foot sweeps are starting to transition over. So when I do
Hmm.
my travel teaching and do judo for jiu-jitsu, or just I go to jiu-jitsu clubs and just show a couple things that works in that sort of environment. When I do get a request, which most of the time they're like, you're the judo black belt, we trust you, you do what you think is appropriate. But if I do get a request, it's usually foot sweep, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, at first I'm like, okay, so, and I talk about this too. So when you say foot sweep specifically, like what do you mean? Do you mean literally okuriashi barai, or do you mean like, sasai, diashi, ochigari,
Right.
kind of stuff like that? And they're like, oh, just using the foot to trip them. I'm like, okay, well that's better, because if you do want me to show okuriashi barai to people that don't do judo and you guys don't focus a lot of stand up, I'll do it. But I'm telling you that it's something very complex that takes a lot of time to learn, right? And a lot of reps.
Right.
And also, you got to understand, too, that judo conceptually, you stand up a little bit higher and you're lighter on your feet. So that's why foot sweeps work a little bit more effectively in a judo compared to wrestling, because of the stance and stuff like that. But
Right.
but there's a whole bunch of other aspects. So I I started to like talk people out of it. Like I'm like, I would rather come and show sasai, a very
Yep.
basic sasai, because I think that is like, like one of the easiest to conceptually learn right off the bat. And,
Right.
you can have a white belt that learns sasai that could potentially hit a sasai on another white belt that same night. It might not be
Right.
pretty, but it could work. But if I teach a
Right.
kuriashi barai, no one is going to hit it that night. No one. And it's
No,
like,
no.
and they're just going to kind of forget about it, right? So I kind of talk the clubs out of it and say, let's
Right.
do Sasai, something like that. Anyway,
Definitely.
but so that 2 year mark. So why? So again, like, what was the final decision? Like, you wanted to have some extra money. You wanted to make sure that there wasn't a shutdown. But then it's been a year straight. Things are starting to get back to normal. No shutdown kind of happening. So you're 6 months out, a year and a half in. Again, why 2 years?
Yep.
What were you waiting on, or why did you decide to leave your job at that point?
So I probably honestly would have continued working longer if this didn't happen. But so this was March 22, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, March 2022.
Uh-huh.
So I was obviously open for a bit there, and um, I ended up start deciding to take a team for the first time to a nationals. We went to the youth nationals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so at my job at the time, I was a supervisor. And we had a calendar and we write down the days. Obviously, I had plenty ahead of time that I needed to be off for one thing or another. And I never asked for
Uh-huh.
days off. So
Yeah, sure.
so usually when I asked for a day off, it shouldn't have been an issue. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wrote that I needed that weekend, a weekend off for
Mm-hmm.
the youth nationals. Wasn't an
Mm-hmm.
issue.
Yeah.
But then like a month later, I needed a Sunday off for a different tournament. And it was like, why do you need that Sunday off?
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I have tournaments, and I told you what my priority was. It's not this, it's that, and I told you straight up. and and I don't take days off for anything else other than
Mm-hmm.
anything that has to do with that.
Sure.
And um, that's the priority. And basically, it wasn't that they weren't giving me the days off. It was just that it started being like an issue to
Right,
start taking
right,
those days
right,
off. And
right.
obviously,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I was a
sure.
competitor, a
Mm-hmm.
big part of judo for me is the competitions. I enjoy
Mm-hmm.
them. I enjoy coaching at
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy bringing a team. I enjoy having seeing kids win at tournaments, and I enjoy that stuff, and that's a big part for me that I like.
Yeah.
So I wasn't gonna not go to tournaments
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
this job that I'm going to leave soon anyway doesn't necessarily want
Yeah.
me to go. So
Sure,
I
sure,
could
sure.
have definitely worked longer, and I would have been more comfortable to work longer and
Mm-hmm.
whatever else. And I just like bringing more in if I can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when that happened, it was kind of just like, all right, well, I'll put in my 2 weeks then
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because now
Yeah.
I can focus fully on this. And so it wasn't necessarily like, oh, I'm just making so much money, or I'm just doing this
Mm-hmm.
and this is
Mm-hmm.
so much, I don't have any time or whatever.
Yeah.
It was strictly that I wanted to make sure it didn't take away from what I was trying to do at that point.
Yeah.
Um and and then at that point I started uh an extra class,
Mm-hmm.
and like the and I started doing some private lessons and stuff like that on the days I would have been working. So
Nice.
I was able to do a little extra, and but have way more free time kind of
Mm-hmm.
to uh whether it's, like I said, do lessons, or
Mm-hmm.
even just be a little bit more thoughtful on my planning for classes and stuff like that, because
Mm-hmm.
originally it was really difficult to have the time to plan for classes because I
Yeah.
didn't have that extra time.
Right.
So it
Of
was
course.
like on my lunch break I was writing the lesson plan for the next
Yep.
week,
Oh
and
yeah. Yep.
it
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, this sucks. So it really opened up the time to be a little bit more thoughtful, be
Mm-hmm.
able to, and now I have like, for the week I have things that I want to work on,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously when like a tournament comes up I adjust accordingly based
Mm-hmm.
off what I wanted to change or whatever. Um but now it's really easy where I have, let's say, 3 lesson plans, and depending on who shows up for the who I know isn't going to be there for the week or is going to be there for the week, it's like, all
Mm-hmm.
right, I need to do this one and this is what I'm
Uh-huh.
following through. This one can move on for next month or whatever, and it's really easy to have the time to be very thoughtful in my planning.
Mm-hmm. I keep telling my wife that my full time job is interfering with my judo club.
Yep, yep. That's funny. That's
uh,
funny.
yeah, I definitely feel that the again like the growth and kind of the resurfacing of judo, and I mean it's not much, it's not much, and I'm still like, even after doing judo and seeing the explosion of jiu-jitsu and all that stuff, right? Because I've been watching the UFC since the beginning, and I've
Yep.
seen the boom of jiu-jitsu, and I'm still in shock that judo has not grown specifically from jiu-jitsu. Like it's very surprising to me, and I'm getting a little bit of, well, I would say that probably, well, at the club that I teach for, not my own dojo, the one in Charlotte, all those students are jiu-jitsu students first, right? And they
Mhm.
supplement with judo, and that's awesome, right? And I would say at my club, probably about a third have done jiu-jitsu before or are currently also doing jiu-jitsu. So they're supplementing, and again, like that's cool. Like you want to get
Yeah.
better at jiu-jitsu, great. Like I'm all for it. Like you never want to compete in judo. I don't, I don't care, man. Like
Right.
if because you'll see, and my students at the jiu-jitsu club, they're getting to the point to where people don't want to stand up with them at all anymore. Because they
Right.
already know that it doesn't take a ton of time when you're in an atmosphere that doesn't practice a lot of takedowns, or if they do, it's kind of like, let's warm up and you just kind of do takedowns on your own, and they don't break down the technique and this and that
Yeah.
and talk about sleeve control and whatnot. That just a little bit of judo starts to go a long way, when you start to cross over. but
Definitely.
but but I definitely, again, I think that judo is a little bit on the uprise again. Now it's not exploding by any means, and it's, will it ever catch jiu-jitsu in the United States? Probably not anytime soon. In the world it's
Right.
bigger, of course,
Yep.
but in the United States it's not. And the movement, back to what we originally discussed, of this for profit model and running it like a business and things like that, is how judo is going to improve and survive. Because I think some of the aspects that I talked about earlier and that you brought up as well, that the older people that are running the non-profit clubs that have been running since the 90s or sometimes earlier, 2000s, whatever, that are still running it and don't have anybody to take it over, that's kind of starting to fade away, because
Mhm.
they aren't. staying up to date with technology. They aren't spending money on marketing. They aren't doing any social media. It's all been word of mouth. And
Mm-hmm.
they have a couple black belts maybe, but they see that the sensei is always struggling and
Mm-hmm.
has to pay money in order to keep the club going. And if you have a younger person, they're like, I don't want to take over something where I got to pay $1,000 a month, out of my own
Right.
pocket. So it's like, why would I do that? And again, it's not as popular in the rec centers anymore, and it's hard to find people that want to volunteer to do stuff like that. There's just a lot of different things that are going on, and I definitely think that all that has, without a doubt, affected the judo population, or just the number of people that are doing judo for the last 20 years. What do you think about
Definitely.
that?
No, I agree 100%. It's I don't think until BJJ started kind of doing this for profit and growth type mindset with
Mm-hmm.
the expansions of like the Gracie academies, whatever. Until
Yeah.
until
Mm-hmm.
that happened, I don't think people thought that it was necessarily possible with judo to make it like that
Mm-hmm.
because they think about they compare it. I think judo is always compared to like little league, or where as far as like oh it should be low cost for everybody and whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact of the matter is when you make it for everybody, you attract a certain crowd.
Uh-huh.
And obviously it is for everybody, but
Mm-hmm.
if you have people that are low not willing to spend the money to have their kid or themselves in a professionalized academy of some sort,
Mm-hmm.
they're probably not going to be dedicated enough to continue them anyways.
Right.
So if you have a very low costing or no costing program,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to attract, you might get 50 people in the program. You might not, but you might get 50, and there might be 5 of them that stick through a year. And when
Right.
that
Yeah.
happens,
Uh-huh.
what did you actually get out of it? Because now you lost majority of people you were trying to spread the sport to.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't make any money. There's no quality people that are going to try to carry on the art after you.
Right.
And so it's realistically when people have to pay a monthly fee of some
Mm-hmm.
sort, and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to be it doesn't have to be ridiculous. It doesn't have to be $250 a month,
No.
but they pay $100 a month,
Mm-hmm.
and they know they're paying in exchange for a service that they're proud of, and they are more willing to if there's a point where it's like like I have this stuff coming up in my life and whatever else, they're more willing to stick around because they're like I already gave so much to this, I
Yeah.
need to continue and push through it. And that kind of goes with like you said, if an instructor's struggling and paying out of pocket, like that's the struggle for them, right? That's the
Yeah.
struggle. They
Uh-huh.
have to figure out how to keep this thing going. If
Right.
that kind of is out of the way, they have so much more focus to put on the individual students.
Right.
And when that happens, you develop a personal relationship,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and then it gets to and it might sound weird, but if you develop a personal relationship with your students and they have a point where they're like I'm struggling, like I'm having a tough time, they just talk to you about it. They
Yeah.
talk to you about it instead of being like I barely know this guy that I teach or that teaches me twice a week because I don't
Mm-hmm.
talk to
Mm-hmm.
him.
Mm-hmm.
And they're willing to discuss and even I've had adults where they've had like injuries or something like that, and they're
Exactly.
like they'll a lot of adults would just be like like I broke my wrist, I'm gonna leave, and they rarely come
Mm-hmm.
back.
Mm-hmm.
when
Yes.
when you have that relationship with a person, like the adults in my program, well they're at the point where they'll come up and be like, all right, I don't want to put anybody out of comfort with like, and put anybody out and have to make people go around me, but what can I do to keep coming and still do stuff on the mat? And and it turns into that type of discussion, and they stay in judo. They
Mm-hmm.
never have a break.
Yeah.
Like things are just limited, and it kind of turns into something more like that versus it just being like, oh, you no relationship with your members.
Mm-hmm.
They They leave when something comes up and they don't come back and there's no discussion, there's no follow up. You don't know anything about them. To be able to run a dojo, you really have to be personable,
Yes.
and it's really hard to be personable and connect when you're so worried about keeping the doors open.
Yeah, yeah. And you kind of read my mind on what I was going to bring up next too is so I also think that well, I don't even think. I almost kind of know this, but if you have a business model and you want to have a martial arts facility that is up to date and kind of appealing to the modern audience, and there is a gigantic boom and jiu-jitsu again, and I interviewed Colton Brown's dad, Jeff, and he said that we should get on our hands and knees and thank jiu-jitsu for providing this model to us. But there's this gigantic explosion of 30, 40, and 50-year-olds that are either starting martial arts for the first time, and a lot of them are
Mm-hmm.
going to jiu-jitsu, or people that were like maybe a wrestler 20 years ago or did something 20 years ago and are coming back in. So
Mm-hmm.
when you run a business, and it's interesting because this is the opposite of the way that I came through the system, and probably you as well. I run a pretty recreational program, and I tell the adults especially that if we're doing a drill and you don't want to do it, then just don't
Mm-hmm.
do it. You could sit out.
100%.
If you don't want
Yep.
to do the live, just don't do it. Like, you don't got to
Right.
ask me. Just sit out. You're
Yes.
you're an adult.
Right.
Now the kids I push a little. The kids I don't
100%.
give as much of a choice, but a 35-year-old man that is doing judo for the first time. If you want to do the break falls from the knees, do it from the knees. Like, I don't really care.
Right.
And it's like, I know for a fact that if you are running a judo club like they did in the 1980s, to where someone comes to judo and they have to basically learn judo by getting the absolute crap kicked out of them every single
Yep.
day until they finally understand what to do, is not going to work anymore. It's
100%.
it's just not going to work anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
now, does that mean that we're getting soft? No, not necessarily, but like, we have to start appealing to the everyday person, the
For
person
sure.
that comes to martial arts once or twice a week and has to go to work the next day.
Exactly.
And so what does that mean? It's, let's teach them the art. Some people love the hard nose, like, let's go as hard as we can. And, some
Mm-hmm.
people love that, but the majority of the people don't.
Right.
So, I run into individuals sometimes because, I'm always trying to sell judo, get people into judo or get people into martial arts or wrestling or whatever. And every once in a while, I'll talk to somebody and they'll say, I know that you keep asking me to come to judo, and I'm going to tell you the real reason why I'm not coming. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, please be honest, of course. Well, 5 years ago, I went to a judo club, and yeah, I wrestled a little bit in high school, but that was 10 years ago, and I told them at the beginning. And my first night, I was a throw dummy for everybody in the club, and I
Mm-hmm.
got thrown hard, and there was no crash pad work, and nobody went over break
Mm-hmm.
falling with me, and I hated it. And that's why I haven't went back to judo. So that's why I'm not coming to your class. And I'm like, wow, that's so you
Ridiculous.
you went to a club that is not run very well, first of all,
Right.
But anyway, so the whole point and what I'm trying to get at is, um, do you think running a club a little bit more on that perspective of safety first, and let's not pressure the adults and let's not press competition, is that something that you agree with in that model, or do you
100%.
okay, yeah,
For sure. For sure. That's what I do. I do have a lot of people that do like to compete. Um,
sure,
but I have a good group of people that don't.
course.
and
Yeah.
it's gotten to, it's like you said, when we do a drill or something, or we're doing randori or whatever, especially the people that just show up,
Mm-hmm.
or they're just, let's say, under 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Throw
Mm-hmm.
that number out there.
Yeah.
Under 6 months, it's like, all right, you are only grip fighting. You are
Right. Yeah.
you're watching. You're going to learn more from watching and then grip
Yeah.
fighting than you are from doing randori. So like it's I always push, watching that type of stuff is always going to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
I have a bunch of older adult students that, when like the teenagers are doing a drill, or like the adults that compete or whatever, they're like, "Oh, I want to join."
Mm-hmm.
And they
Mm-hmm.
do it with someone that is kind of equal to them, where they want to try it or they want to do it, but they want to do it at their pace. They want to do it a certain way. They don't want to, like we'll do a drill where like they run to one side of the room, they run back and throw. And like
Mm-hmm.
it's like a little bit of a conditioning drill, but it's technical and stuff
Right.
like
Of
that.
course. Yeah. Uh-huh.
The older adults that want to do it, and it's only like an 8 minute drill or whatever. They do it on
Mm-hmm.
the crash pad. Makes
Of
it easy.
course.
They can still get the workout.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
can get their
Mm-hmm.
fitness in,
Yeah.
and they don't have to take the impact. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of my students will step up and
Mm-hmm.
want to do that stuff and ask to do it, and not, I'll be like, grab a crash pad.
Mm-hmm.
Makes
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
so you feel like you are doing the same thing, and you're really stepping up into it, but you're doing it with accommodations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like
Yeah.
that's what a big thing that judo, kind of like what you're saying, doesn't do. They don't accommodate to people.
Mm-hmm.
Like judo as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever remember as a kid there being accommodations for certain people. It was just like, you do this, and if you don't like it, then you don't do judo. And
Right. Yeah.
so it's kind of deterred that crowd that BJJ has attained, because people see judo and they're like every person I've ever talked to about judo,
Mm-hmm.
they want to do judo. They
Mm-hmm.
want to try it, want to give it a shot, but it's it's hard to walk in and see like a black belt slamming people, and you have to be like, that's not you. They were you 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
like, we take
Mm-hmm.
steps. We don't
Mm-hmm.
just throw you in there.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yes.
learn basics first. You
Mm-hmm.
learn, even on the first day, like I have, I'm sure you do something similar, where like, yeah, they learn how to take a fall, but they take 5 falls on a crash pad or something.
Right.
Or it's
Yeah.
something
Yeah. Yeah.
very
Of course.
minimal and
Mm-hmm.
very controlled and very specific. You put them with a partner that you know is safe, and you don't put them with the idiot high school wrestler in the corner that you don't do that. It's just you have like a group, you build a group of people that you know are going to welcome them in,
Of
and
course. Yeah.
it's really about,
Mm-hmm.
like if when a student that's advanced now or whatever come, like when
Mm-hmm.
they came in, showing them the specific environment that you want,
Mm-hmm.
and then when new people come in, they adapt to that environment too.
Yeah.
So it's,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of put it out there, put the blueprint out there, and then your members kind of pick it up when it comes to newer, older adults coming in.
Right. So I had a black belt roundtable, which I would like to get you on one. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously this is the second time to be on. I don't want to bug you, but
No, I'd be welcome, or I'd be excited to go on that.
yeah, but there's I've done a couple of them, and the first one that I did, it's all judo black belts, and we kind of originally, I did multiple topics and did like a 15-minute time limit and then just cut people off. And I found out pretty quick that there's a lot of opinions and a lot of passion. So I might just do one table discussion, one topic, and we'll talk about it for the whole hour. But
Yeah.
so Anthony, and of course, anybody that's listening to this and wants to check out the Black Belt Roundtable #1 or #2, please check that out. That is just absolutely awesome. I think especially if you are a judo a judoka and want to check that out, please check it out. It's awesome. But Anthony out in Hollywood Judo in California, he brought up a good topic, and I make these questions, and I don't always know how they're going to be answered, right? And he made such a good point. How do we grow judo in the United States, right? His answer is we need more instructors. And I'm like, wow, like that's like such a basic answer, but it is so true, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
we need to have more people that are getting set up to teach in the future, right? To get them invested in the sport and to build them for the long haul and to eventually, set up an opportunity for them to either teach at your club or maybe start their own club. So, I mean, that's obviously a great answer, but, what's some other ways that you could see, Skyler, that we can help grow judo in the United States in the next 10 years?
So, and kind of similar lines, I guess, to an extent, but I
Yeah.
think there should probably be some sort, and hopefully, like supposedly something to this extent is being done,
Mm-hmm.
but I think there needs to be a more general guideline for, well, and whoever does JA, USA Judo, whatever it is, a
Mm-hmm.
more general guideline of the basics to starting someone in judo. I
Yeah.
think a lot of, because there's no instructor training. Like there's no, we don't have anything like that.
Right.
So people learn from the people that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they learn their judo from, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so I learned judo from tons of different people,
Yeah.
and obviously you go to clinics and you learn judo from this person, you learn judo for that person,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever else. But just because you're a good judo player doesn't mean you're a good instructor. So
Right. Yeah.
it's a really important, like, so the generalization of saying, oh, if we have more judo players we have more instructors, it's
Mm-hmm.
true, but at the same time, are they quality? Do they know what they're doing? Do we have any idea um how to start someone from the base and work them up? Do we
Yeah.
know what direction? Do we have the connections to point them in the right direction? What's good for them? Do they want a referee? We put them over here. They
Mm-hmm.
want a coach? Put them over here. They want to be an athlete? Come over here. Kata's
Yeah.
over there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think being able to have all of those things being built up is going to grow judo. Because if we
Mm-hmm.
don't have all of those things, then we can't grow judo. So,
Mm-hmm.
I don't do kata, but
No.
anybody from my club that wants to do kata, like I can point them in the direction of kata,
Mm-hmm.
and they have that system that they can do. I don't teach it. I wouldn't. I did like the bare minimum of it, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's not my thing, and I can't teach it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure there's people that try to teach like competition judo that are in the same standpoint as I am with kata, where they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to
Mm-hmm.
learn from watching and they don't really know how to do it and whatever else. So it's I think a more direct pathway to develop instructors and develop referees and develop, because like the we're like for Connecticut Judo we're trying to make like a referee development system,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
getting help with that is just absolutely outrageous.
Dude, and
We're
they
just
need
trying to,
they need to pay them. They need to pay
yeah,
refs. They just
yeah,
do. It's again, now we're talking about a system that was developed during the world wars and the depression, right? Where like people
yeah,
can't afford to pay for certain things, but like yeah, I mean, it's like it's hard enough to find refs for high school events,
mm-hmm,
and you're paying them, and you could actually make some pretty dang good money being a ref in the school
definitely.
system. By the way,
Oh yeah,
these people that I was bringing to wrestling tournaments were making $200-300 a day for being
yep,
there, and they're making $125 for a duel, and it's like, wow.
yep,
But anyway, but they need to
big
pay
money.
them. So anyway, sorry,
Yes,
go on.
for sure. No, it's along, it's all interconnected. It is, because it's, we like, I don't, and correct me if there's something that you know about, but I don't know of one like instructor course or anything that is going to get people to really understand, and even the building blocks of starting a dojo, where it's like you start with these classes and you do this and you have this age group and you have to have a curriculum for how you work with the 8-year-olds versus the 15-year-olds versus the older adults, and people don't know that stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
when I've talked to older judo players before about like, oh yeah, in the kids class we like play a lot of judo oriented games, we do the foot sweep game, we do this, we do that,
Yeah.
and they're like,
Oh yeah.
they're like what are you talking about? We just do
Mm-hmm.
judo and throw each other, and it's
Yeah.
just what it is. Like, what are you
Mm-hmm.
talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's not enough educational
No.
systems for that,
Mm-hmm.
and it all stems back to not having enough instructors. But like the instructors that we learned from, and then the instructors that they learned from, and then so on and so forth, it's all just they just take a piece of everybody, so it's
Mm-hmm.
everybody taking a piece of everybody. And if half the instructors aren't learning from quality instructors, how are they going to
Mm-hmm.
be quality instructors? And I
Right.
don't mean quality as in like their direct teachings, but quality as in knowing how to teach, how to get a certain message to
Mm-hmm.
different groups, because a lot of times most people cannot teach all groups of people. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
you'll notice at like a lot of the BJJ places, they have a person that teaches the kids classes, and they have a person that teaches the bigger kids classes. They have a
Mm-hmm.
person that teaches the adults,
Yeah.
and so you really have to have a skill to be able to adapt to all those groups
Mm-hmm.
and change your tone and change your
Of
the
course.
way you voice things. And so I think a lot of it is straight up education.
Mm-hmm. So, two things. One, I want to send a shout out because are you familiar? Do you know who Steve Scott is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he has a great organization called the Judo Black Belt Association, JBBA.
Mhm.
It's $50 for a lifetime membership, and that gives you access to. He's made a coaching manual that I'm in the process of reading right now. That's great. That
That's
goes
awesome.
into um, educational theory, how to teach different populations, step by step guide on how to teach, and then you get access to a library with thousands of videos that talks about instruction specifically. So anybody that's interested in that, again, Judo Black Belt Association, JBBA. It's a great thing. It's only $50 one time payment, and you get all these
That's awesome.
all this
That's a
stuff.
great resource.
Yeah, oh my gosh, it is, and it's I've had Steve on, and he's wonderful. He's a wizard. I think he's a ninth degree, so I mean he's awesome. But the second thing that I want to talk about is I I was watching an interview with Jimmy Pedro, and Jimmy Pedro and Travis Stevens have both put into or created a curriculum, which is the American Judo system, which I'm sure
Hmm.
you're aware of.
Yep.
So he's I forget who he's on, whose podcast he was on, if it was Shintaro's or whoever, and he's like, Shintaro or whoever it was, the host person, whoever you are, did you know that everybody that's part of USA Judo, they get a free membership and free access into this big library of stuff that we have
Hmm.
available? And he's like, during the interview, he's like, even people in his own club, he's like, "Hey, have you been on? Did you go on the American Judo website?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like,
Hmm.
"If you get a USA Judo membership, which you have, you get free access to this American Judo system." And they're
Yep.
like, "Wow, I knew nothing about that." So
Uh
it's
huh.
so it's like you got Jimmy Pedro in his own club telling people about it, and they had no clue. And it's like, wow, like why would they not promote that better? But
Well, and that's the thing, is that like it's crazy because and I'll say it like, obviously there's Ochi and Taio and all like the standing throwing techniques
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
how to apply them, and there's actually a lot of things on how to progress them, and
mm-hmm.
like you start with this and you can do this at home, and so there's a
Sure.
lot of good information. But
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
asset I've seen is the Newaza stuff on there, because
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of different types of techniques.
Sure.
There's so much, and there's
Mm-hmm.
so many variations. Because
Yeah.
in my head, there's way more, because Newaza is so limited as far as like you have to get this in a time frame and whatever
Mm-hmm.
else.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that you have to know as
Mm-hmm.
far as like if they do this, you do this, and you can still get
Sure.
it. And
Yeah.
so there is so much, especially in Newaza, on that.
Right. 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 No, and I get that too. And I was mentioning this in one of my last YouTube video that I posted about how I am, in a sense, am a diamond in the rough, and not in the sense to where I'm better than anybody. So of course not that. And this isn't a toot my own horn kind of thing. But I have, I went to school for education. I worked in the school system. I've went to trainings on teaching. I was a coach for a long time, and there's most of the judo instructors in the world don't have that sort of training. And again, it has
Yeah.
nothing to do with me saying that I'm better, and that that's definitely not what I'm saying. But the fact that I have a background in education, and I've received
Yep.
training, and I've received coaching courses, and I have that experience,
Mm-hmm.
it does give me an edge on what teaching actually is and how to explain
Definitely.
things to different age groups and things like you're saying. So yes, so some sort of educational system that will go over this stuff, and it's not just technique stuff. Like, people
Mm-hmm.
have to understand how to read people's moods, how
For
to
sure.
explain stuff that reaches, the different learning styles, right? Visual learning, auditory learning, kinesthetic learning, learning by writing, all this stuff, that people have to understand that. And they also have to understand that just because you are very good at Ochigari and that's your favorite throw, and you have the ability to hit it in 15 different situations, and you break down to all this stuff, not everybody is going to like Ochigari, and not everybody is going to be
Exactly.
good at it either. So you have to learn to explain things outside of your niche. And then also, right, just like you do lesson planning, like you were saying, not everybody does that. Not everybody has a curriculum. And again, like, it goes back into the training. So back to what we started the whole conversation with, about how running judo as a nonprofit, is starting to fade away. People don't have the time and don't have the resources to put into actual real training to become a better
Yep.
instructor, right? And again,
Exactly.
like, you know you go to clinics, and you go there to learn technique, right? But whenever you get information that talks about teaching specifically, and how to teach, and mnemonic devices that people use, like, cast the fishing reel, or
Yep.
check your watch, or stuff like that. That stuff needs to be included there too. And
Yep.
instructors out there, you need to pay attention to stuff like that, right? It's because it's not about your knowledge of judo. It's about how can you convey your knowledge so everyone around you can both understand, but even more importantly, apply, right?
Right.
That is a complete different skill set than being a good judo player, or owning a club, or being a national champion, or just
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So running the club for profit, and stuff like that will give people opportunities to do, more of these learning opportunities. But yeah, there really isn't a good, I mean, again, like Travis and Jimmy are doing great things with the American Judo system. Everybody check that out. That'll help you become a better instructor. And the Judo Black Belt Association with Steve Scott, that's going to help you become a better instructor. But that the last thing I'll say too is, so when it comes to promotion and testing people and getting them to the next belt, finding information on the various organizations is not just as simple as open the website and there's a button at the top that says testing requirements.
Uh-huh.
It's like you got to do this like deep dive and dig
Yep.
into these folders and like go to the archive and then find testing and then go to the next folder, and it's like find the PDF and this big list of stuff, and it's like, why is it so, why is it not kind of like the first tab on the first page of the
Right.
homepage? It's not, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like
It's hard to find.
I thought that there wasn't one out there for a couple of the organizations, and all I could
Yep.
find for on USA Judo was basic requirements for kids, but there's nothing for adults. And it's like, but one of my friends shared all this stuff with me, but it's like, okay, why was it not like readily available to me? Why was
Right.
it so difficult for me
To
to
find.
find?
Yeah.
Yeah, so also just something as simple as creating a standard curriculum that is very easy to find, that's talked about, that should be on, like you click on the coaches page, and like the first tab at the top is, these are the requirements to get to your next belt. Have you kind of experienced that same sort of thing?
Yeah, it's getting any information from any of the governing bodies, like you said, it's just there's first of all, none of them align with each other.
No.
So it kind of doesn't even make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fact of finding what the requirements are, and then even a lot of the requirements don't even make sense for the certain ranks.
Mm-mm. No.
And
Right.
so it's like you kind of have to take and develop your own thing to an extent.
You do.
Because it's
Right.
it's like a lot of it doesn't apply, and a lot of it doesn't apply for beginners versus
Mm-hmm.
like it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, this is something that you might be able to learn, but you're not going to be proficient in as a yellow belt. Like it's not going to work.
Sure.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a lot of adjustments to be made, more directly aligned missions maybe, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, obviously I think there's certain organizations more geared towards grassroots versus others that are
Yeah.
more geared towards the end game picture, and it doesn't make
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
I think everybody's just on a completely different page. I think grassroots is going to create more results
Yep.
competitively.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I there's no, and that goes for all types of positions in judo, and like the instructors, the athletes, everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's very little for development. There's very little for development for everybody involved. So,
Mm-hmm.
and how are we going to have quality and quantity if we can't develop it?
Right. 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 Yeah, all good stuff, and we can we can go on forever. I know,
Yes.
but we'll get close to wrapping it up here and to close it out. But always an honor to have you on. It's
Yeah, thanks for having me.
no, it's so good to be able to have these discussions, because, and again, like I brought this up on the latest video that I posted online. So a guesstimate in North Carolina, there's probably maybe like 100, maybe 150, and I'm being super generous with that number of judo black belts in the state. And South Carolina, it's even less, maybe closer to 50, 75. So we have a couple hundred black belts between the two states. 10% of them teach, maybe. 10 or 20% have left the sport completely, right? They're still black belt, but they aren't involved, so you got a very small percentage that are being involved. a very small percentage that are teaching, a very small percentage that are leading dojos, right? So I don't get the opportunity to discuss judo in a deep dive like this as
Mm-hmm.
much, you know. But luckily, on platforms like this and this podcast and making connections, I am able to do that. So
Yep.
just the fact that we're having a deep dive discussion is just awesome to me. So first of all, thank you for that, of course.
No, of course.
Yeah, and again, like when I have the next judo black belt roundtable, I'll kind of I'll let you know and see if you might want to jump in on that.
Sounds good.
But the last thing that I want to end with is, looking into 2028 LA, we're able to bring a full team for judo, which is awesome. Being the host country, having it here. What are some things that you're looking forward to? Judo 2028 in the Olympics in LA, and then again, what's some other stuff do you think that we can grow maybe on the higher level competitive side to where we can maybe not, well, I don't want to say be the laughing stock, but, maybe have maybe have a couple competitors that might get into the race to actually medal this in 2028.
So I think so. If I'm sure you remember, but probably like 10 years ago, an organization called Project 2024 was started. And
Okay.
it was kind of before the American Judo system. It was, I think it's called Project Gold now, but it was
Mm.
a program made by Jimmy and Travis
Yep, I do know
and
now. Yep.
Chris Skelly,
Mm.
and they put this together, and it was to bring everybody together and have training camps, opportunities. There was some funding opportunity at certain points, and stuff like that. And when COVID happened, it kind of threw things for a loop, and so that organization kind of took a step back because there wasn't much you could do at that point. But a lot of the athletes you're seeing right now that are doing well were originally part of that organization
Mm.
and were involved with the training camps. I was someone that was involved in a lot of those training camps and training trips and tournaments that they went to as
Mm-hmm.
a team
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So a lot of those people are kind of have the shots at 28.
Yeah.
And so I think with that organization kind of falling to the side because of COVID and stuff like that, I think there's been a lot of people that have stepped up and done more than the national teams in the past have done as far as
Mm-hmm.
traveling, uh, coming together a little bit more. Obviously, Colton does national regional camps fairly often.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of options compared to what I remember when I was competing compared to now. Um, so I think like in the last 2 years, I think we've had a lot of people step up and a lot of people that are really bringing it in the world of judo and can have a really big opportunity to medal at 28.
Mm-hmm.
And but the biggest, it's to me, obviously it's about 28, but to me it's not to an extent because all 28 is gonna, because all these athletes are young. They're all a lot of them are juniors.
Yeah.
They're young juniors. They're 22, 23, 24. They have another cycle or two in them. So I think 28 hitting now is going to be a huge platform for a lot of these athletes. They have something that they can work directly towards because it's on home turf, but I think it's just such an advantage because it's just going to catapult them up for 2032. So I think we have an opportunity for medals in 28 for sure. I think there's
Mm-hmm.
also people that are going to over the next 2 years progress tremendously, and we could have some people pull some upsets and take a medal that shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe that. But I think that that's going to really bring that level up for 2032, and it's bringing our competitiveness back because we obviously for 2020 and 24 weren't didn't do too hot.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that because 28 was on home turf, people kind of really decided to jump in full force, knowing that I can medal on home turf. I can make an Olympic team with a full team and compete in LA. And I think it's more of a stepping stone for bringing the competitiveness back more than anything. Um, we have a lot of guys that are doing really well, a couple girls that are doing pretty well too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but obviously, in 60 kilos, we have a very competitive spot going. We have a really competitive spot at 81. Um, and I think that the more people we can get hunting for those spots, the more we're just going to have more quality players.
Yeah.
Because I think that's been a problem in the past is that our nationals meant nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And now people know they have to fight each other for the spot on the Olympic team.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
knowing that, they have to show up and they have to all fight. And this senior nationals was probably the most competitive that I've seen in 10 years
Mm.
because people actually showed up to it. And I
Right.
think almost every division had anybody you could possibly think of that's in the running right now for the
Yeah.
most part. There are a couple people missing, but not very many.
Right.
And so it's going to be good to see for the next couple of years our nationals really mean something and people actually fighting each other and getting out there and bringing each other's levels up because they're more apt to have to get out there. So
Yeah.
I think it's gonna grow judo from a competitive standpoint for us. But it's to me it's just the beginning. I think it's just the beginning because if we have a whole group of men and women that are top tier people, it's just going to produce that next level of top tier people,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to continue going on from there. And people actually have people to train with that are high level right in their country. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be I think it's going to start like a movement to for the next couple cycles.
I hope so. I really do.
I hope so.
I I definitely I definitely am gonna make it out to your club. You know, I made a special trip up to Colton's in Shintaro's a couple months ago. And I can't just pack up and leave all the time, but
Yep.
I do plan on going to the national training camp in Florida this year. After the I think it's the Nationals, whatever's in Florida in July, but I plan on
Yep.
attending that. But I
Yep. I'll
definitely
be there
want to.
too. I'll be there.
Okay, I definitely want to make it up to your place. And stay for a couple days, and
Yeah, that'd be great.
you know, but yeah, it's just trying to do a lot of stuff. But I promise that I keep like when it comes to one of my next trips, right? It's like your name always pops into the back of my head, so I'm
Yep.
definitely gonna make it up, I promise.
Yeah, and
But
because there's quite a few, like if you wanted to make like a trip out of it, there's like my club, and then Pedro's isn't far,
okay,
and then Tohoku isn't far. There's a good group of clubs within like an hour and a half
okay,
range that like you could hit all at once, and it
okay,
would be a great trip.
okay. Well, all right, Skyler, thank you so much. Anything you wanna end with before we close it out?
No, nothing specifically, just
Okay.
thanks for having me on and
Mm-hmm.
making an effort to grow judo and get these messages out there, and it's just great for the community.
Yeah, I I hope so. I mean, and again, it's like, and I mentioned this I think before. It's like I want people to listen to the stuff that are invested, right? That want to learn more
Hmm.
about judo, more about martial arts, right? The people that digest and get something out of it is definitely one of the reasons I do this. I mean, obviously, if somebody listens to this and it makes them interested in judo, awesome too, obviously, or if people listen to it
Yep.
and enjoy it, that's awesome as well. But again, like this is, stuff like this especially is for very niche, however you want to say it, audience. I want more people to open up judo clubs. I want them to listen to this and maybe find something that could help them. start their business or grow their business, or maybe you're thinking about taking a nonprofit judo club and maybe want to run it full time and make it a career.